Hey everybody, this is my Lifetime shed, model 60005, I believe. It is an 8x10 shed. It comes with the skylights, which are kind of cool, the front windows, and it also includes a rear window out the back. Right there. This is the model that has the doors in the front of the unit as opposed to the side of the unit if you're going to use it for, say, for example, a lawnmower. I want to give you my review of the product, let you know what I think about it. First subject will be no technical skill required. I really found that it doesn't take a lot of skill to assemble a shed, maybe just some patience and carefully watching and reading instructions carefully. Second subject, modular construction. This is not something that's screwed together and could be cut. It's all prefabricated. For example, this right here is a plastic panel that actually folds on a 90-degree angle, so you have no seam here in the shed that water can leak into, but it has to fold and line up down with the base of the shed down there. So modular means you've got to be a little bit patient with the pieces. It's not like you can take a piece and cut a little piece off because it doesn't quite fit and put it back up again and nail it in, because if you cut it, obviously the notches and the screw alignments and the holes aren't going to line up at all. So you've got to take that into consideration when purchasing the shed. Next recommendation, RTFM. Definitely read the manual back to front. Look at all of Lifetime's videos. There's also a plethora of videos available on YouTube on different tips and traps for assembling a shed, and I definitely recommend you spend a lot of time assembling them to make sure that you're comfortable with the idea of assembling it before you begin the assembly, and also comfortable with the idea of assembling it before you make the purchase. The next subject will be part numbers. Part numbers are, to say the least, confusing. The manual itself will have part numbers that have 3-digit codes. What I mean by that is that these panels right here are called ADH in the manual. There's two ADHs. Sorry, there's two ADHs on this side, and I believe there are two ADHs in the back. Maybe one, I forget the exact count, and the same thing for the other side of the shed, basically. However, the actual part numbers, if you look at the interior of the shed, don't necessarily coincide. The manufacturer uses a numeric code to label their parts. So some of the parts will have, for example, you'll see AGH written on that part right there. But if you look back at that piece right there, you'll see a number 1075674. So they're using numeric codes and they're using alphabetic codes. The manual only contains those letter codes. There are no numeric codes at all. So if you're trying to use those numeric codes right there to determine what piece goes where, you are going to have a major frustration level on your hand. So definitely be very careful when it comes to carefully considering parts, and don't get frustrated by it, or don't get too easily frustrated by it. Next subject is not every screw hole or notch will be used. What I mean by that is, for example, you'll see down here in the floor panel we have holes here which are totally unused. What's the purpose of those holes? Well, those are the exact same notches that are used for the wall panels. So the wall panels, if you just continue down the shed, each wall panel down here will actually fit into notches, go down, and then get banged or tapped right or left to fit into the notch. So you're saying, why the extra holes? Well, that's because the sheds are used on different models. For example, there is a model that has the door on the end rather than the long side. So for example, there is a model that has the shed here. So you'd have the doors here, sorry, so the door would be right here, and this would be a solid wall. Instead of making individual plastic molds for each individual sheds, they've tried to reuse as many pieces as possible. So you're going to find a lot of holes and notches that don't necessarily look like they line up with anything, or there's nothing goes in the hole. So you definitely need to be leery of that. But don't worry about it if you find extra holes such as these that seem to serve no purpose. It's just because they are recycling parts, and it'll all go together in the end. Banging things into place. That's the next subject. The corner panels, as they go up, as I say, you put them down into the notches, which I've already shown you over here. The notches are all around the floor panels. And when you put them down, you tap them left or right. Sometimes that requires a good bang and a good wallop with a piece of wood and a hammer. By that I mean the things don't necessarily all line up. What I had to do initially with this construction was all the panels had to be moved back this way, way past the edge of the sheds. You'll notice the shed's actually sitting right on the upper edge of the plastic here. As it goes further back, that notch gets a little more pushed in. So if you compare the small gap there and down the side of the shed, you'll see that there is a much wider channel right here. So it doesn't overhang as much on here. So that's all a matter of the plastic panels need to be banged and hammered into place until they all line up. The next subject would be expansion and contraction. The good news is because the shed is plastic, in the heat it will expand. So when you first line up things like, for example, the doors, you may notice the doors don't line up, but then if you bang the doors into place, because the plastic is very flexible, and then you let it sit for a couple of days, you suddenly come open the shed the next day and you find out the doors are better aligned because the shed is, because it's plastic, is kind of flexing back and forth. So, door alignment. Well, that was a lot of fun. Right now, as I close the doors, I have to perform a little bit of a trick. I have to kind of push them together like so, lift the latch, and then give it a firm kick and a firm press the top to get the doors to fit. And then the door fits perfectly. Again, it's plastic, it's flexible, so it will bend a little bit to fit in. So would I say it is the perfectly closing door? No, but does it close? Yes. I did initially have it out of alignment substantially, and had to play around with the doors quite a bit to get them to work. One thing I had to do, for example, you'll see that the door, which is using an axle up and down here, it's just a steel rod that fits in this bottom plate down here. What I had to do is actually take a knife and actually expand the plastic a little bit further this way to get the door far enough over to get the alignment right. The door is actually leaning slightly. So is that ideal? No, but it worked. And if you check enough videos online, you'll see that there were other guys doing the same thing. They found out that, for example, the corner panels were very, very difficult. Once you put the one side down and slide it into place, then you fold this one down to lock it into place. Getting it to snap in those things is very difficult. What one gentleman did was actually shaved with a knife some of the plastic off the notches so they went together better. I didn't have to do that, but it's an option that I don't think will negatively impact you at all. So things to consider there. So door alignment's pretty good. The only thing about the doors that's a little strange is I used to have a metal bar that came across the top of here. The purpose of the metal bar is to let these latches come up and lock in the bar, but first of all, these things never really go up far enough to lock into it. So that was a problem. And then also, from me continually banging on the inside, from the outside of the shed out here to get the doors to close, what happened is I actually knocked the entire panel off the wall. At the bar, one day I came out, the bar was actually hanging down from the wall a little bit right here. And as you can see, looking at the screw holes that are right here, very, very thin plastic, so it's not going to take much of you banging on the exterior of the thread to knock those screws out. So I've taken that bar down, and I'm not having any problem with the shed because of it. There's plenty of strength in this gable up here because you've got the steel trusses and the roof panels all holding everything together. So I don't find that having that bar missing across here was a big deal. And as I've explained, there's no trouble getting the doors to align up with the latch. They simply just, again, I bring them both slightly out, bring them together, put my hand, oops, like that, latch up, push in with my foot, push in with my hand up here, push it in, and the door is secure. And I just use a small piece of wire around here just to keep this in, and I'm finding the door is staying closed without any difficulty whatsoever. So leaks, I've really had none. It was very strange. I did have some leaks initially coming down from the skylights. I thought about caulking, and I was going to do that, put some caulk up there or some roof tar or something. But since then, the roof leak has stopped. And again, I think it's because of the modular nature and the plastic nature of the shed. It's flexed and it's bent a little bit. And I think things have kind of, shall we say, moved into place. And I'm finding now I'm not getting any leaks at all. So, that's it in a nutshell. Overall rating? 5 out of 10 or 5 out of 5, sorry. Or maybe a 9 out of 10. I say I made a good investment. I've only had it up now for about a month, but I think it's going to last very well. I do live in Florida, so I'm concerned about long-term wear. I've had this shed, which is made by Suncast, for a couple of years now, and it doesn't show any sign of fading on this plastic at all. I mean, it really is in great shape. So I'm hoping that the Lifetime Sheds plastic, which appears to be the very, very similar material, even a very similar texture of the sheds, is good. So I hope you find this very helpful. Thanks a lot.